I am Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots, and you're listening to the Bob Culture Podcast. Roll out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bob Culture Podcast, episode 44. I am joined by a man who's making a huge mark, a ton of huge milestones this year on the local music scene. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only, ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Mahoney. Bobby, what's up, bro?
Thank you very much for having me. That's a wonderful intro.
Oh, thank you. I could have done better, man. You've been crushing it this year. I'm finally just glad we got to sit down and talk, man.
Of course, yeah. No, this is great. A good, strong name for the podcast. You know, the Bobcast. You know, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
we got a bunch of Bobs in here, right?
Yeah,
I think this is the first time I've had like another Bob on the Bob Culture Podcast.
Every time I see it, I'm like, sharing something of ours or whatever, I'm like, Bob's got to stick together. It's good.
Hey, man, we're about the local music scene here. And, of course, Bobby Mahoney from Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son. Like I said, you guys have been crushing it. I remember a few years ago, I guess it was, with Vection, we were playing the acoustic set over at Monmouth University, and we met you for the first time, and you were right after us. We still have that lighter, by the way, with the bottle opener on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. So we appreciate it. Kate uses that all the time. I was going to bust it out and throw it on the table. I got to find it, but we use it all the time, so thanks, man.
I'm glad. No, that's awesome. It's nice when people can find practical uses for our silly things.
Yeah, no, it was cool. No, it's like 2 in 1 right there. It's awesome. Yeah. And then, we stuck around. We were watching you play and just like a lot of passion from you, just like playing acoustically and stuff like that. Just doing an acoustic set, rocking out. I know you did one this morning, right, over at Sunsets.
I love doing the acoustic stuff. It's fun because you get to be a little quieter, a little bit more personal, while also not being really any quieter. And,
exactly.
I like to keep rocking out a bit more, and because everyone's seen the quiet acoustic singer-songwriter, and there's times for that, absolutely, But a lot of times when you're trying to, make a mark at something like a quick thing like the radio thing, it's like, okay, you got to kind of use the full band energy with just the acoustic guitar.
I love that you said that, man. And that's something I noticed about you right away. I'm like, he's going for it, and it's good.
Absolutely, you got to make do with what you can do. This morning I had Andrew playing acoustic with us, with me, which was great, and having the duo, which we don't do that very often. But, nice. Whether it's solo acoustic or duo or full band, you kind of got to bring the energy either way.
Awesome, man. Yeah, really cool, man. But it was awesome seeing you in Monmouth University. I've seen you a couple times since then, and things are blowing up for you, man. Really good, so I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
But I got to ask, right out the gate, I always ask the bands this, the band origin. Did a meteor hit the earth? And Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son, which is an awesome name. We got to get into that, too. Was there a toxic waste spill, and then the band was formed? What happened, man? How did this happen?
Very close to that. No, it was almost no. I was a sophomore at East Brunswick High School, and I met a couple. Well, I'd been playing in bands and like starting to write songs, everything like that, and was doing a lot of like solo acoustic stuff as well. But I met a couple friends, became friends, Drew Aggie and John Alba.
Okay.
Which were the people I started the band Seventh Son with back in early 2011. Like I was a sophomore in high school, they were seniors. And we just kind of started jamming with our mutual love of AC/DC and White Stripes and just rock and roll, really. So from there we just kind of started writing, and then we added a bass player, and we started playing shows at Seventh Son. And we would play and they all graduated high school then, so we would play during the summers and the winter breaks when they were home from college. But then when they were away for a while, I was just doing solo acoustic stuff and just trying to get my name in Asbury that way. And then, they'd come home and we'd play and stuff like that. But it was really kind of a part-time thing. And then in 2014, we kind of rebranded as Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son.
Okay.
Got a permanent drummer, kind of a new lineup, and but that's when we put out our first record, Friends in Low Places.
Okay.
And that was kind of the reset button, kind of the reboot.
Yeah, hey man, I hear the same thing from all the bands. Yeah,
so
those darn drummers, you gotta find the right one, right?
Absolutely. And we had Drew first, and Drew was wonderful, and then we've had James for 4 years, and James is my brother.
Right.
So
okay, cool.
Not actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was gonna say,
not actually. At this point, you might think that. But
I get you, man.
It's definitely he's great. He's awesome. And then Andrew's been in the band for almost 3 years now, and we've had a lot of different bass players and a lot of different guitar players. We've had I always say bass is like our defense against the dark arts position because every year we have another one almost. But no, it's we have a guy named John Chang Soon. He's playing bass for us. He went to Monmouth and then has played with a bunch of bands, and he's a sound guy too. And he's awesome. He's been with us since January, and he's been kicking ass. So it's been good, but it's kind of been a process of kind of finding the right people, and not even the right people, but like having different. Like the band was a 5-piece at one point,
right?
And even then, like at that time, it needed to be a 5-piece, and like we had a great time with that lineup, you know. But then people do other things. People move away. Like our first guitar player, John Alba, who I started the band with, he's now a sportscaster in Maine. He's sports guy for the ABC affiliate in Bangor, actually.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's all, yeah.
So he and I, I'll go up there and play with him, and and it's great. And so it's cool to have had different iterations of the band, and like we all still get along and stuff like that.
That's cool.
It's cool, and it's like where we're at right now, which we're a 4-piece, and it's clicking really well. I'm happy, and like it's been a good year. Like you said, it's been a good year. Been very productive, and just trying to keep building momentum and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, man, putting in the work, man, and I see you doing that, man. You got some big shows coming up. We'll talk about that in a little bit, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, you're crushing it. And you know what I was saying? I married my singer just so she can't get a new drummer. So just putting that out there if you ever need any advice.
If James starts coming on to me, I'll know what he's trying to do.
Yeah. You mentioned AC/DC, White Stripes, and stuff like that. I always like to ask people their influences. I hear almost like obviously a big Jersey rock and roll, like you said. Mm-hmm. I hear a little bit of maybe like a little bit of a punk rock in there, maybe like Get Up Kids or something like that. Man, what kind of stuff were you into, or inspires this kind of music?
Like I said, AC/DC was like this, always this sort of like a rock and roll foundation, and then also definitely punk influences, like but also like Springsteen is God to me. So like there's the Jerseyness, Springsteen and Bon Jovi were huge.
East Street right down the road, man.
Absolutely. That was honestly the first time I drove by the sculpture since it's been up, actually. And I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Bruce's, really my hero. But then like from there, like there's like a lot of punk bands like Gaslight Anthem and the Menzingers and Against Me.
Nice.
Even Green Day. Like I love Green Day, and like
me too, man. Yeah.
It's really there's a whole bunch of stuff. Even like older like rock, like the older rock and roll stuff, and newer punk stuff and folk stuff, and even maybe some country even, or I've been even listening to Kendrick and stuff like that too. Like I try to listen to as much music as I can.
That's good.
And just try to take what I can from it. I think ultimately it comes down to catchy songs. I like good songs, and like I'll listen to something like, oh wow, like that's a really great song. Doesn't matter really who, what style it is, because if it's something that could be, if it's a good song, you could play it on just chords and with it on acoustic guitar and vocals, and it still gets the point across.
Yeah, totally.
And I think some of the best people at doing that are people like Springsteen and Tom Petty, and like the older classic rock, Dylan. Those were amazing songs. But then also like there's still amazing songs being written now, and like, especially in rock, you have to look a little harder to find it nowadays.
Yeah,
I think 'cause there's so much music out there, and it's like you have to cut through the bullshit.
Yeah,
but there's still really great rock and punk music being written. You just have to kind of dig a little deeper, maybe.
Yeah, no, really well. But I 100% agree with that. Really well said, man. I always hate asking, like, I'm always interested to hear the influences, but I feel like, I'm like, oh, you guys sound like this, and people are like, no,
No, but
I think we're on the same page.
We kind of wear our heart on our sleeves in that.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to, for me, if it's going to be fun for me, I have to write and play the songs that I'd want to hear.
Yeah, totally.
And like, I love Foo Fighters. I love,
oh, dude.
I'm seeing them in Camden in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Awesome, man.
But yeah, stuff like that. Like, it's good rock and roll songs. There's energy, like, to me, you have to be a bit of a performer too. Like, I hate it when going to shows and I'm bored.
Yeah,
like, you have to be performing, because you have to, the song is, about half of it, and then there has to be the performance of the song, and that's half of it.
Yeah, you're putting on a show. Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
And I've seen a lot of your, live videos. You put out quite a few of those lately, man, and you definitely have the crowd, man. I was with one of my buddies, actually. We're hanging out at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he saw you at Prudential, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Cool.
But he's like, they were really good, man.
That's
so
awesome.
That's great.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that was nuts. But
we'll tell you.
Yeah, but it's real. Yeah, it's the show. Regardless if we're playing in a basement in New Brunswick to 50 kids, or if we're playing something like House of Independence or the Stone Pony, or we're playing to 17,000 moms. Whatever it is. You have to bring it. When I was younger, people really told me. There's actually a guitar player, Matt Hogan, who plays guitar
Okay.
for Willie Nile. He plays guitar for Tommy London. He plays used to actually play for Miley Cyrus when she was just starting with Hannah Montana.
Right. No way.
But he told me when I was young, he's like, you got to play every show like you're playing the Garden. And I've really always kind of took that to heart. So whether like we are playing if we're playing in a basement or playing a bigger room, it's like got to give the same show. Or today, acoustic at Sunset.
That's what I was just gonna say.
You got to do the same thing.
Something I noticed about you immediately, even at Monmouth University, man. You were, it's like you were playing Madison Square Garden, man. That's. I love seeing musicians like that, man. I love seeing musicians that give 110% every time, and I love. A lot of people that play like no one's watching sometimes. Like, not to say that they're oblivious, but just like they're just in the moment.
Yeah, you have to do that, and I agree. And like growing up, my parents brought me to a lot of concerts, and I was very fortunate to go see so many of my heroes growing up. And yeah, there's really is like an unspoken sort of magical element when seeing a show, and like some people can really make that moment happen, and make that connection. And you make as a songwriter, if you can make the audience feel like you're really experiencing what's happening in the song for the first time, or like really get into it, like you say, really.
Yeah.
Like people appreciate that, and it doesn't. People can tell when you're going through the motions, and people can tell when you're faking it.
Totally.
You see someone who's been on the road for 18 months or however long, and you can see that they're just done with it.
Yeah.
It's draining after a while, and I mean, I can't even imagine what that must be like. But, you got to try to kind of dig and find whatever that fire in it, and kind of bring that out every time. And it comes out easier sometimes than others. There's times you have to really, got to really get in the moment there. But I've been lucky, and I just get excited about playing. So
Passion's there, man.
So it's I don't have to try too hard to get worked up to play.
That's awesome. What was your first concert, by the way?
First
real
rock concert was probably Bon Jovi at the Giant Stadium.
Such a good first concert.
2005. It was Nickelback opened, it was Nickelback, and then Bon Jovi played, and it poured, and it was so much. Like, it was really hot. It was a hot summer day.
Yeah.
And then when Bon Jovi came on, it just opened up and it poured, and then they had to cut the show early actually because of lightning and thunder, but. Yeah, that was my first real rock and roll experience.
It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from seeing them to Springsteen, the Stones, Paul McCartney,
dude, that's a nice.
Yeah, Clapton. Yeah.
Dude, that is like epic.
My parents always saw it as like rock and roll education. And it's
that's really cool.
You got to be cultured, and. My parents always were always big fans of music growing up.
That's really cool.
So,
man.
Like I said, I'm very lucky that I got to see so many of amazing artists. And then also I grew up going to like smaller shows, like people like Willie Nile and Jesse Malin. Those type of guys, and they're amazing too. And like really just watching those guys and learning, growing up and being guitar teching for those guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up. I skipped my last week of senior year of high school to go on the road with Willie Nile.
No way.
It was like their guitar tech and opening act. So I got to go out and do like Pittsburgh and Ann Arbor and Cleveland for the first time. And I would play my 20 minutes acoustic and then tune guitars, and then help load the van and, drive the next day. But it was great. It's kind of like a rock and roll baptism.
Dude, I was just going to say, this is a great story so far, man. Just the checklist of artists you've seen. Like, I got a list of people that I still want to see. Like, we're about to go see Joan Jett
nice.
in July.
Yeah.
Never seen her.
She's incredible. Yeah. She's a legend. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. But, yeah, man, you're just like Paul McCartney. You're rattling off names. That's a great way to start it, man.
No, I mean, it's like I love rock music, and I love going to concerts. That was always a big thing growing up. And I think at this point for me, it's like I would love to be able to. I love giving that experience back to people.
Yeah,
giving them, because I think performing rock and roll music is somewhat of a dying art.
Yeah,
it's not. And in some ways, it absolutely is not, because there's so many great artists who are sort of doing it and reinventing it, and it's cool. But it's not what it used to be.
I know exactly what you're saying, man.
And not to be like the old man yelling at the clouds type
that's
thing,
me,
but and there's definitely ways that it could be updated in more 2018 for sure. But like at the end of the day, I think nothing like just plugging an electric guitar in and just going crazy.
Absolutely.
I think there's an honesty to it that people can appreciate, and yeah, again, like I said, I think it comes down to good songs with energy.
Yeah, man. Really, really well said. This is a great story so far, man. And thanks again for coming over.
Of course.
This is good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the music a little bit. Keep it about the music.
Yeah.
We'll listen to a track in just a minute, man. But I want to ask you guys just about, a lot of original music, obviously. Writing the songs, man, does it start with you and a piece of paper? Do you guys jump in a room? Is it different,
It changes, but usually it'll start with me with the paper. Okay. Whether it's or me writing stuff on my phone, like a phone memo, or singing something in my phone while I'm driving,
cool.
Or rushing out of the shower to sing a melody idea into my phone real quick.
Oh wow,
stuff like that. But then then I'll kind of get like a skeleton of the song together with myself and the acoustic guitar, just or electric guitar or whatever, and then I'll kind of bring it to the band and I'll say, okay, here's my thoughts for the arrangement, but maybe the drums will come in here and the bass will come in here and the guitar can do something like this, but then they all kind of come up with their parts and we'll jam through it and figure out the song kind of together. Sometimes I'll have more of a structure than others. Like sometimes I'll say, here's how the song's going to go, here are the parts, and we'll kind of start from there. Other times we'll be like, I don't know how this is going to really work exactly, and we'll kind of have like the melody or the chorus or something like that. And it's fun to figure it out that way. I don't usually do stuff like writing in the studio. I know people do that.
Okay, yeah.
I'd love to do that, but it's just financially not a feasible thing right now.
Yeah,
so,
no, hey, I understand, man.
It's expensive, so it's like I like to have everything really locked down and figured out before we get in there. And then obviously then things will change in the studio as we're going. But really the songs kind of get done before that. And I'll even get to a point where I'll write out like almost like a script for the song, like the arrangement, like, okay, intro, what instruments are playing here. And then, the verse, I'll write out like a blueprint for it for myself so I can see it written out. Because I don't, like, for our music, I don't do notation or anything like that.
Yeah, I got you.
I do that stuff with work and whatnot, but it's not something I do for this. It's rock and roll, it's chords and, leads and stuff like that, and we figure it out together by ear and whatnot. But it's a lot of fun, and we did this new record we recorded at North End Recording in Clifton.
Okay.
With it's right down the street from Dingbats. Actually.
Yep, sure. Yep.
But we recorded with cousin Frank Mara, who he plays bass for one of Brian Fallon's solo projects.
Okay, I was gonna say name sounds familiar. Yeah.
But he's also, they call him Cousin Frank because he's the cousin of Alex from Gaslight.
Oh, okay.
So we actually got to record with like all of Gaslight's old amps and stuff like that.
Nice,
and, like,
dude.
Yeah, so that's an influences. I mean, Gaslight Anthem's another one that we absolutely love them. So that was very cool to record with their amps and get that vibe. But yeah, it was a really cool process. This time we took like 3 days and tracked it at the studio and stayed near the studio and we're kind of immersed in it for those days, and then we went back and mixed it and mastered it at Lake House in Asbury.
Yep, sure, we know Lake House.
Yep. Yeah. We did the mastering there, and Tim Pinella did a great job with that of Haunt Club fame. And we put it out in March, and we're just kind of pushing it since.
Awesome, man. That's cool. And I always envy you, like from people and singers. Not because I wish I could sing, but I'm not that I like where I am on the drums in the back. That's fine. That's my office right there. I'm comfortable at home. But the thing I envy is just like like you say, you jump out of the shower, you have an idea, or if you guys have a dream, or you're driving in the car and you write something down, these melodies come in your head. That's something I've just never had, man, and I wish I did. I think that's such a cool thing.
It's like definitely honing a craft, and it takes time, and you could definitely do it. I have faith in you. You could definitely do it. If I can figure it out, you could do it.
No, thanks,
but it
man.
takes.
Yeah.
It's like I've been writing songs, throwing up Dr. Evil quotation
marks
since I was like 10. Since I was even playing guitar.
Oh wow!
Like I was trying and I got failing miserably, but like trying to do something, and I think it was Jesse Malin who said something. It was like you have to write 100 songs, and the first 100 are going to be terrible, and in the second 100 you write, there might be 1 or 2 that are okay, and then the 98 that are horrible. And then the next 100 he gets, maybe there's 5, and it's a work in progress, and it definitely takes a lot of time of just doing it and being bad at it.
Yeah.
Because for every passable decent song I've written, there's at least 20 horrible pieces of shit that no one will ever hear. And it definitely is a process, and like Even sometimes I'll write a song knowing that, okay, I'm never going to use this, but I have to kind of get this out of the way as sort of like a process and get to the next thing almost, you know, and okay, I'm going to write this one, but then I'm going to take maybe an idea I had in this verse and rewrite that for this next song, or, you know, use a progression that this is a good idea, I'm going to change the key and use it in this instead, you know, instead of that. Or I don't have like a one direct way of here's how I write a song from A to B. It just kind of sort of happens over time. And
Awesome.
Another example would be the song. There's a couple of songs where like, we were working like on the road, especially a lot. This record, like the song "Passenger Seats," we were coming up, driving home from a gig in Richmond, and we were driving all night, you know, from Richmond to home. It was like the last night of like a 10-day tour, and we were just exhausted. But coming up the turnpike at 5 or 6 in the morning, as you know, as the sun was rising, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So like I started writing some lyrics on my phone while we were coming back, and that ended up becoming a song. And then we hatched out. Well, we were in a hotel room outside of Pittsburgh. Now we were in the hotel room, like working on the arrangement, and then we ended up recording it, and then ended up playing, you know, playing it opening for Bon Jovi.
Yeah,
so like in a year, it was just like that was probably the most interesting sort of like progression of a song, because it was really like took it from nothing from on the road to working on it on the road to really being our first record of us like working on the road and while writing these songs.
And
stuff like
this
that.
is the track "Empty Passenger Seat."
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the one. You know what? I was going to start with the other one, but you just
I
let
know.
that. No, this is
I know.
good, man.
I thought I was like,
You let it in so perfectly, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. There you go.
You know what? We'll talk about music in a little bit. The story was so good, man. Let's listen to it now, man.
Okay, there you go.
Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son, "Empty Passenger Seat," right here on the Bob Culture Podcast.
The burning world on your mind. You suffocate the flame and suppress the light. Oh, won't you die a little closer? And it's just like me to do these things, to maneuver myself so perfectly to the crosshairs of our enemies. And it's just like me to do these things, and you and me and every passenger seat. You and me and everything we
All right, everybody, that was Empty Passenger Seats. Make sure I get that right this time. By Bobby Mahoney. Awesome, man. Awesome track. Everything sounds really good. You told us about the recording process. I always like to ask bands this. Some people say that, that they could get their writing style from like dreams or sci-fi or fantasy. I'll ask you that just because of the band name and stuff like that. But a lot of bands obviously write from real life and real life experience. Where does the writing come from?
It's definitely like a mix of real life, everything from things in my own personal life with my friends, or things that I've experienced amongst my peer group, or things more real life or more like political, like the political climate. I try not to be too bold-faced, this is a political song, but I try to write sort of with the times in mind, and I think a lot of the best songs are reflection of the times they were written in.
Punk
and
rock,
and it's like I don't necessarily want, I don't think me writing another "fuck you Trump" song is really gonna do anything, but writing sort of with the climate in mind, in general, if so that type of stuff as well, that has an impact, everything from that type of stuff to, a phrase someone I'll see written on a bathroom stall,
Oh, that's cool.
I'll write, if I see something like, oh, that's okay, that's cool, that could be weird to put in a lyric, so I'll write that down. Or even if like in conversation, if I'm like sit with a group of people, or even one-on-one, someone will say like a turn of phrase, or, use an expression that I may not be familiar with, like, oh, that's kind of I could see that in a song, or even the way people like an inflection, the way someone says a phrase, even like, because that's really what it comes down to. It's like syllables and like the way words sound together. So I'll even when I get a melody idea, sometimes I won't even have actual words. It could be more it's like phonetics, and I hear it and I'm like, okay, what words sort of match that
Cool
sound? It's something like that. So like I'm constantly writing stuff down,
It's a constant process, man. That's like you're constantly taking in information.
Yeah, and it's like it's sometimes too much. But
that's
it's
good.
but it's like
You're a true artist, man. I know you types. Yeah, that's good though, man.
Yeah, and it's fun, and I I try to when I am taking notes when people are talking. I try not to look like I'm taking notes while people are talking.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, okay, I know, write a little something down.
That's super interesting. No, that's really cool, man. The attention to detail, I like that. I can tell that you're thinking about things, and maybe that's what I'm missing. If I ever try to write a song or something like that.
Because it's the best songs I think are ones that people can relate to. It's like that's what people could find themselves or something in their situation in the song, and it's not that you want to make it like super generic that anyone can relate to it, but I think if you can make it something that. Maybe something that people have thought of a million times but they haven't thought of it this way, from this angle. Like people like Warren Zevon, in particular, is an amazing writer who was able to sort of put this like a dark humor twist on everything,
cool.
And it's really hard to describe, but like something like that where it's just sort of like take like that desk for example, it's a desk, we've seen this desk from this angle, but someone hasn't looked at it from a certain angle, and they can, I saw it like that, It's little things like that, and I think can help put interesting things together in a song.
Interesting, man. That's a really good answer. That's a very unique answer. I haven't gotten that one yet, man.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's interesting seeing where all the different singers come from, man.
Absolutely,
that was great.
Even trying to teach songwriting.
Oh, that's right. You
school,
teach,
yeah, but it's a joke because it's like the teaching songwriting part is. I mean, in that it's such a subjective thing.
Right.
And like, even
when
in college, if I took like songwriting lessons or classes, it's like they'd bring in like different songwriters to talk about their process, and that's awesome. That's really the best way to do it because you can listen to someone talk and be like, oh, that's a really interesting approach to it. I never thought of it that way. I'm going to try that or try that method when I write next time, see what happens. But the other times it'd be like, oh, I completely disagree with that. That's a horseshit, way to write a song. And it's like, okay, I know now that I don't want to do that. So I also learned something, but it's like, okay, now I know, like, oh, I've learned that that's full of shit and I like my way better, But teaching it, I'm always like, here's what most people would do. Here's the rule, but then here's 10 examples where the rule was broken and it's great, So like, there's so many. It's so subjective, songwriting. But at the same time, though, a good song's a good song, you know? So like, it's such a bizarre lightning in a bottle thing songwriting. It's weird.
That's good stuff, man. It's super interesting. I got to ask this: any like weird or pre-show rituals or anything that you guys do? I know people do some things.
On the way to, when we're traveling together, like in the band, if we're out of state, usually we take my SUV with a trailer.
Nice.
So it's tight in there. But usually what we'll do is Andrew, our guitar player, loves to. I guess it was a ritual that he's been doing for years. But before every show, he loves to listen to Motorhead.
Yeah, cool.
So
Awesome.
before every show, we we get 10, 15 minutes out from the venue. We crank up. Usually it's like Ace of Spades.
It's gotta be. Nice.
We Are the Road Crew and Louie are usually the three Motorhead.
Nice.
You know, and
That's epic.
I'm trying that. I don't know. I'm trying to get too superstitious or like set in a way of like I need to do this before a show because every show is so different and chaotic that it's like a lot of times I don't get to do anything I plan to do. Like even like vocal warm-ups, I try to do them as much as I can, you know, because I don't want to blow my voice out, and it still happens sometimes. But like having sing 10 days in a row is a lot.
Right.
But even like some shows, like it just like it's too crazy. Like there's too much other stuff happening, and it's like I didn't get to do that. So I try not to get too much in my head like that because I used to play ice hockey, and being hockey players are very superstitious, and there's always like I got to put my right skate on before the right skate. I can't if I won the last game, I can't wash my socks that I put all over my shin guards. I can't. I got to do this. Then I'd listen to a specific song before each game or like whatever stuff like that. I used to listen to like either Thunderstruck or Born to Run, depending on the game.
Good choices, man.
But it was like that. And if I didn't get to do something, I'd feel weird getting on the ice. Like, I didn't do this. But then I know it was all in my head. So for shows, I try not to do like anything too like I need to do this or I'm not. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
But
the Motorhead thing's pretty on point though. That's a pretty
cool.
good way to do it. That's a nice memory
fun.
for you guys.
Yeah, just to pull up to the venue.
Yes, that's awesome, man. Well, speaking about shows and stuff, man, I mean, you crushed it. I've seen you in the Asbury scene. This is like you said, Asbury's like your music home.
Yeah.
Playing all these local venues. You got a big show, real quick. Let's talk about this now, man. You got a big show coming up. What in a couple days, right?
Yeah, Thursday,
the summer kickoff party,
House of Independence.
I've still never been there yet, but we're gonna try to get out there, man.
Yeah,
for sure. But tell us about the show. Go ahead.
It's a great room. I was actually just there last night for Willie Nile. It's an awesome room. It's like right on Cookman Avenue. It's got gorgeous lights and sound, and it's a great addition to the Asbury music scene. 'Cause there's so many amazing, legendary venues there already, but it's different and it's cool, and I like that it's keeping Asbury. They've done great rock shows, so it's sort of keeping the Asbury vibe while sort of updating it a bit more and doing their own thing, rather than taking over a beloved venue and turning it into something else.
I see.
But,
should we get into that? Or
no. But you know what I'm saying? Though?
I know exactly what you're saying.
It's doing the hip, cool thing while doing their own independence. Right. You know what I mean? And and so I like the room. It's cool and. The staff is always very cool, and we're playing there Thursday with the Burns, which are another great local Asbury band, and Mac, she's a pop rock artist in Asbury, and then we have Tula Vera coming down from North Jersey, great punk outfit from up there,
cool.
And then a special guest acoustics doing a short acoustic set is Tommy London, with Matt Hogan, and Tommy London is singer. He's a singer from New York. He used to be the frontman from Dirty Pearls.
Okay.
But he's opened for Lady Gaga a bunch of times. They're really good friends with her, actually. And he just opened for at Citi Field last time she was here.
Wow.
And, a couple of years ago, I was guitar teching for the Dirty Pearls at Gramercy Theater, and she actually showed up and sang with them.
How
so
cool
we got
is
to hang out with
that?
her, and
That's
that was
awesome.
insane. But
I bet, man.
It's very cool. But Tommy is an awesome guy, and he's like that rock and roll embodiment, and so he's gonna play an acoustic set before us too. So it's gonna be a cool show, but it's gonna hopefully be not too late because people got to work Friday.
I was gonna say, what time doors was 7?
Doors are gonna be at 7. Music's gonna start at 7:30, and the openers are gonna play, and then we'll hit probably sometime around 9:30, 10 o'clock. It'd be done by 11. Get it. Bed by 11:30 is my goal.
There you go. Yeah. I get you, man.
No, but,
that's awesome. And so we're talking about all these great shows, and obviously June 14th, go check out Bobby. It's good. It sounds like an awesome lineup. Man.
Thank you.
You've gone from playing, the Pony. I've seen you have some headlining shows, some big shows at the Pony going on. So obviously you had this big gig at the Prudential Center that led to another gig at Madison Square Garden, and of course you got to open for Jersey hero, Jersey favorite Bon Jovi, man.
Absolutely.
How did this happen, man? I have a few ideas. I remember some things on social media some time ago, but how did this all play out, man? This is a dream come true, man.
Well, it's like a lot of the first people have been asking is like, oh, was it a contest or something like that? No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't, because I do remember there was that. That's where I was thinking. I remember that thing. You had to submit some video or something.
We did that a couple of years ago, but we didn't get picked. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
fine.
we didn't either. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah,
I was like, all right, fuck you guys, fine.
No.
But yeah, I was like, all right, fine. You don't want us to open whatever. But no, we tried that, and then I was actually in. I think it was like the last tour or something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But and then so this year I was in Epcot with my family. I was in
nice.
Disney, so,
dude, I love Disney.
Me too. It's I love it. And so it was like I was like in a Disney commercial almost. It was weird.
Yeah.
So we're in Mexico having lunch in Mexico.
Yep, I understand.
And I got an email saying, "Call me ASAP." So okay. So I call this guy and he's like, "Who is this?" And I'm like, "Bobby." It's very music industry type conversation.
Yeah,
it was
I know,
funny.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What are you doing Sunday?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm supposed to play a benefit at William Patterson, my alma mater, but it's like a small thing." And I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to do this, but what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, okay. I had a gig for you, but if you're busy." And I was like, "Oh, like what's the gig?" And he's like, "You really want to know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, dragging it out. Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, we need someone open for Bon Jovi on Sunday." And I'm like, "Well, we're there." And I was like, "Well, yes."
Yeah, you don't.
And he's like, "Well, what about women?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck them." I was like, they'll find another band. Like they'll get something else. And they were William Patterson was so gracious and like, "Yes, please do it."
Yeah.
But no, it was like
you don't hesitate. You just say yes, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and we got the call on Monday, and it happened Sunday. So like it was like, that
time to get the practice.
Well, I flew back on the Friday.
Wow.
And the band rehearsed without me.
That's cool, though.
Which was good.
They
Andrew took over, took musical director.
Yeah.
And they rehearsed, and then we got back.
That's a
and
good
then I
band.
played
That's a good
they're
band
dedicated.
to do that,
They're dedicated. And then I did the Trenton Punk Rock Flea Market acoustic during the day on Saturday. Then we drove down to D.C. and played American University on Saturday, opening for Amine, the rapper.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that song Caroline. It's actually a good song. And then we drove straight back, and then we played Prudential Center on the Sunday.
Awesome,
and,
man.
Yeah, so coming from Disney to getting to do that, like it was an insane week.
That's pretty cool. Hey,
still pinching myself.
By the way, it's Prudential Center. You said you played ice hockey. Devils fan or
a Rangers fan though?
Oh, okay. So it would have been better for you if it was.
I know. It's like my dad was a diehard Rangers fan from the '70s, like growing up. So when we got word it was Prudential Center, and I was like, "Sorry, Dad." But when we got the call I got the call to play with Williams Honor at the Garden.
That's
I was
legendary.
I called him first, and I was like, "Hey, so guess where I'm playing next?" And that was very much the same thing. It was like, "Call me ASAP." And I'm like, "What's up?" And like, "We need an acoustic guitar player for this gig at the Garden." I'm like, "Okay,
sign me up."
Yes,
yeah,
please.
man.
And they're Williams Honor. They're a great country rock band actually from Asbury Park, and they play in Nashville. They kind of split their time. And whenever they do full band stuff, they call me to play guitar in their band. And yeah, I'm very, very, very happy they did, because growing up a Rangers fan, playing the Garden was like
Yeah, dude.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
And then but Prudential Center was a blast, and doing it with our band, I had an amazing time doing that. And like Prudential Center, our set got held back a bit in time wise, so we didn't go on till after 8:00.
Yeah.
So the place was pretty full.
That's
Which
awesome.
I didn't know what to expect, because beforehand I'm like, guys, we could walk out there could be 1,000 people who don't give a shit about us.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But we walked out, and there was like 17,000 people, and they were like into it. And
Yeah.
I was as shocked as anybody.
What was it like walking out onto that stage, man?
It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
in some ways it was everything I thought it would be, and it was like, holy shit, like
Yeah.
this is this, and I still I'm pitching myself constantly. But in other ways, it was like every other gig. You
going to
load in,
work.
you sound check, you play your songs, you do the same thing. I would play them the same way you'd be playing them in a basement to 100 kids. It's kind of the same. It's the same thing, but it's also in its own completely,
Yeah, I get it.
completely insane and
The
not.
sound was probably like on point. you
Yeah,
know?
and like
yeah.
just I would have been fine just sound checking. Like after sound check, we were like, okay, we can go home.
Yeah,
And that's what-
really?
Yeah, yeah, just,
Yeah.
just hearing the kick,
Yeah,
you know, and you know,
that's amazing.
snare drum sounds like a cannon, and like,
Yeah.
that itself, like getting the sound check in a room like that, with all that equipment and everything, like, yeah, that's would have been good enough, but to actually get to play the gig was you know,
That's
on-
epic.
Yeah, epic. And I'm still.
Well, apparently went well because everyone that I know that went to that show, everything I've seen on social media, the videos and stuff I've seen, everyone said you guys were great and you crushed it.
Well, that's I appreciate that, and that's you know the goal, and I'm glad people enjoyed it, and it's in New Jersey. Going to a Bon Jovi show, it's a sizable demographic.
Yep.
You throw a rock and you know someone, you find someone you know.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm glad that we as a local Jersey band were able to play with our local Jersey heroes. You know, it was very humbling and it was an honor. You know,
That's
it was very
awesome.
cool. And I hope we can play an arena again soon because that was a little bit of a rush that I need to get again.
So you got to meet. Obviously, Bon Jovi took a few minutes to talk to you guys.
Yeah, which is very nice. We got a
Yeah,
couple
that's
minutes
cool.
with him, and he was very, very kind, and he spent.
That's classy. That's,
It was.
yeah.
It was very cool, and we got to talk about just like his growing up. His idols were Springsteen and Southside Johnny and
Yeah,
stuff
right.
like that. So talking about Bruce and Johnny with John all on a first name basis
isn't that
was a little
crazy?
mind
Yeah.
fucky.
Yeah.
That was a little weird.
Yeah.
That was weird. I think probably the weirdest conversation I've ever witnessed, though, was a couple of years ago. It was it was at Light of Day, the benefits they do for Parkinson's research, and I'm in the backstage area, and I'm watching Bon Jovi's keyboard player, Dave Bryan, talk neighbor
Seen him
shit
at the
with
Wonder Bar, yeah.
Springsteen. They were talking like, oh yeah, your dog. I guess their neighbors like, oh, your dog was in my yard last week. I go, like, yeah,
that funny?
shit. Got through the fence, like, and I'm just standing there going, what the fuck is going on? I was like, you guys are the biggest music people in the world, and you're having this conversation about
Regular-
nothing, and I'm just like 18 and losing my shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, stuff like that.
That's
It's
funny.
mind-boggling.
That's crazy, man. What a great experience for you. And just, when you're listing all those bands that you saw growing up, man, it just came full circle, man. That's
It
ridiculous.
did, and that's really the poeticness of it. Is that I can't remember if I said it to you yet or not, but the first song I ever sang in front of anybody in the 5th grade talent show was "Wanted Dead or Alive."
No way. No, you didn't say that. That's awesome. Yeah.
And that was like, and for some reason that song really, made me want to try performing.
Yeah.
And I did, and it was fucking horrible. It was really bad.
Oh,
no, it was
yeah.
really bad. And I sang it to a cassette. Because like the song is like a 5-minute long song, and the talent show wouldn't allow a 5-minute song, so I had to sit there with my cassette and record a version down off the CD to like get it to. It was 2004, 2005, and I'm 10, so I didn't have like I couldn't edit anything. So I'd sit there and do it on the cassette, and I get down to 2.5 minutes or whatever. And it was really bad. I couldn't play guitar at that time yet, so I just sang it.
Oh, okay.
It was just it was before I could play the guitar, but I wanted to perform, and so
What a great story, though, man.
yeah, and to get to go from that to playing with opening for them was very full circle, and
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. You know what? It's definitely, I think, to have a lot of local bands on the show. We play with a lot of local bands. We play in a local band. I think it's just good to see, like, some of our friends and, a lot of local acts that we know, man, like, like Make It Happen, like you're playing Prudential Center, you're playing Madison Square Garden. Like, you put in the work, man, and it's paying off,
appreciate that. And talk about Jersey, the local scene around here. It's insane the amount of talented bands there. Actually, one of them.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, shameless plug. Thanks,
of course,
man.
Yeah. Check them out on Facebook.
Yeah,
But they're playing what do they say? The Saints soon. Or
Oh, yeah, we got a show with the same with Rope Tree and all them. But go ahead, man.
yeah.
We're going
But-
to talk about the scene. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. There's something in the water here in Jersey, and it's like so many great bands, and it really pushes you to be better, and it forces you to be on your game, and it's, there's a lot of, it's friendly, it's competitive, but it's, I wouldn't even say it's friendly competition. It's like, it's just, I don't know, it's a great scene. It's awesome to be to go out on any night of the week and go see someone play music, and it's going to be good, There's a lot of great artists, and definitely something in the water in Jersey.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. And you know, I always like to, and everyone's so like positive when I have them on and talk about the scene and stuff like that, which is good because you know, I've heard people in the past say it's oversaturated. You know, there's too many bands, but
Yeah, I mean, and you can make that argument, but I think regardless of how many there are, the good ones or the better ones always kind of will rise to the top.
yeah, man, as
And
we've
there's
seen,
always, and
yeah.
you could see that, and there's, you know, I think it's a good thing that there's a lot of bands, and I think it's an accessible thing for people, and it's a great way to express yourself, even if people aren't like trying to do it, you know, seriously, you know, or you know, to a real serious point. But I think being out playing music is great, and I think we shouldn't be like, oh, you know, there's too many people. It's
Yeah,
a little
yeah, kinda
curmudgeon-y,
embrace
a little-
it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like there's a lot of people playing music. There's a lot of great bands to go see. You got to work a little harder.
Yeah, that's hey man, really well said, man. Even here on the podcast, you know, we're trying to support the scene, man. You know,
Absolutely,
we want to keep this rock thing going. You know, here's always the tricky question I always have to ask all the bands, man. You know, some people like to keep it politically correct. Some people kind of want to, you know, I don't want anyone to lay into anyone or anything like that. But what do you think about, you know, obviously like in terms of the scene and selling tickets, promoters paying to play, stuff like that? Do you have any thoughts on that, or if you want to go the other way, like any advice to bands or anything like that? I know it's always a tricky question.
It is tricky. It's there's definitely like pay to play sucks, but there are definitely scenarios where you're selling tickets where it's not pay to play.
Right.
And I think there's a difference between I've had promoters that what I'll tell you what I think is wrong. How about that? I'll start with there.
Yeah,
What
I
I think
love
is
it.
wrong is when a venue will say, okay, you need to sell this many tickets, but you need to put down a deposit of this much money for
Right.
these tickets,
Right.
and then you can earn that back. That I've never done, and that I've always said no to, because
Good.
that's
I agree.
bullshit. But that being said, a venue saying, here's a bunch of tickets, move as many as you can to get paid, I think that's fair.
Right.
I think, you know, a lot of these venues, like, they're giving you a shot. It's not, this isn't a basement. It's not anyone else's job to get, you know, people in there to come see you play. You know, obviously there are different scenarios where you're opening for someone, there's a crowd there, and stuff
Exactly,
like that.
right,
But,
yep,
like,
yep.
if you're playing a show, you got to promote and bring people. And, like, the way people wouldn't sell tickets or promote if there was no, oh, you have to sell these tickets. You know, if people didn't do that, people would have no incentive to actually push the show, and then people would just show up and expect a crowd. And so that, I think, I don't have an issue with promoters asking people to sell tickets.
Right.
And if you can't move the amount of tickets they want you to move, then don't take the show. You know?
Easy math. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and if, like, then don't screw the promoter and say I can sell 80 tickets and then only sell 15. Don't lie. You know, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, be on level and say, hey, I don't think I could do 80, but maybe I could do 40. And a lot of times if you're honest with them, they'll work with you, you know. And selling tickets, you know, when I was younger was like the bane of my existence. And I,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, we know that story.
yeah,
Yep,
it
yep,
sucks. But at the same time, I don't think it's a business. You know, they have to make money, and obviously they make money from the bar and stuff like that. But I think you have to learn how to promote and get people in the room. You know, and as much as I think there should be opportunities for young bands to not have to sell tickets and should be able to play, and I think there is space for that. But
Right.
I don't think places like the Stone Pony is a place for that. I think if you want to play the Pony, you have to
Right,
put
right,
up or
right.
shut up, you know, kind of thing,
Mhm.
you know. But there are venues where they definitely abuse the pay-to-play system. And I'm not going to mention names
Yeah,
of venues
yeah,
that,
for sure.
'cause
Smart move. Yeah.
but there was definitely a couple, and I know we could sit here and name a bunch. But then there are places like the Pony where it's like, okay, you got to sell tickets,
right.
but I think as long as you don't try to pull a fast one or don't promote or don't sell tickets, I
Hold
think
up
you're
your
fine.
end of the bargain. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had shows like for like the Pony where, you know, when I was younger, where I thought more people would come out and people didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an off night. It sucks, but you apologize, you own up to it, and then you do better next time.
Yeah.
You know, and even like House of Independence, like it's a big room for us. Like we're trying
Yeah.
to, I'm making a push to get people in there. Like, you know, I'm like saying, like, hey, please come. It's
Yeah.
a
It
big
sounds
room.
like a great show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a lot of fun. But like, if I like, here's a perfect example. We had a band play with us last time at House of Independence. I'm not going to mention who, but they didn't bring anybody. And they told me they were going to be bringing, you know, anywhere from 20 to 40, Which again, and I'm not a
Yeah,
I'm not a
0
stickler.
isn't 20 or 40. Yeah.
If they said, hey, you know, we were only able to get 5 or 10, you know, people backed out last minute. There's always a couple people that back out last minute. Hey, I have to, you know, wash my cat, or I have to tie my shoe. I can't make it to your show tonight. I'm
we've
sorry.
heard those ones.
Yeah, and it happens. That's fine. But to have no one come out and to not push it, to me, that shows you that they didn't try.
Yeah.
And there isn't, you know, effort there. And that's when, and that's why wasn't the one to say, oh, you have to sell this many tickets or you can't play. But then it's like some scenarios like that. It's like, well, I wish I had asked someone who was actually going to move the tickets.
Right. So you've seen it pretty much from all the angles.
Yeah, and I've been on the other side of it where the promoters, I've been on the band side of it with
Yep.
dealing with the promoter who was like, oh, you know, you're a couple of tickets short here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, well,
Yeah,
sucks.
it's that awkward
yeah,
situation.
but
like,
and you deal with it. But I think it's all part of it. But then I love, you know, the DIY playing in a basement. Like I love that side of
yeah,
it too.
man, me too.
But I think you have to find a balance between the two. You know, because you have to realize that okay, if I want to play a place with a stage and a sound system and a staff, they have to make money to pay the staff. It's a give and a take. You know?
give and a take. That's like perfect. You covered that from all
I
angles.
tried.
Man.
I tried. See,
that was
politically
good.
correct.
No,
I tried
man.
to keep it. I tried to keep it good. you
Yeah,
know?
no, I could talk about this stuff
Yeah,
for
exactly.
hours, man. But you really, I mean, you know,
Is
it's
it-
like a give and take, like you said, man. You really
and,
covered
and
it.
every bar in Asbury is a little bit different with their stuff. You know what I mean? And everyone has every bar anywhere in the country has their own different policies, and every promoter is going to be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's as young bands, you just got to go in. Sometimes you have to deal with that bullshit, you know, to get to the next step. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of part of paying your dues and all that stuff.
I mean you know, I think it's you gotta make mistakes and learn. You know, you just gotta go out and play and try to do the best you can, and you know, get on as many gigs as you can in general.
Yeah, would you do? I mean, you know, you're telling me you got all these gigs lined up. You know, you're having 4 shows in a weekend. You know, just an
Yeah.
acoustic and a benefit and opening for Bon Jovi.
It's
and
good. You
yeah,
know,
it's great, man.
It keeps me busy, keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to ask you. You know, I always like to ask the bands that come in here. Any advice you have to like up and coming bands, or even someone just like starting out on an instrument, wants to go play at a coffee house, anything like that? I know you teach and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But any advice coming from Bobby Mahoney himself over here?
Yeah, just get out and play that coffee house. Like, go do that and go play as many coffee houses as you can find. And do that until people like you and you can get good at it. And then go play a bar and go play as many bars as you can find. And it's really, my mom always said to me when I was young, you have to make your own luck. You know, you have to go out and make your own opportunities because no one's going to come knocking on the door, you know, here's a record deal. You know, the shit that happens in the movies doesn't happen like that. You have to go out and be seen and get your songs out there and play and be bad in front of people. Like, I was really, it took a lot of time for me to get to the point where I could really perform to any degree. And, you know, you got to get better at singing. And the only way to get better at singing is to do it in front of people. Got to get better at guitar. Do it in front of people. Write songs. Write bad songs. Play them in front of people because that's the way you're going to get better. You're going to learn, oh, that didn't really work, but if I change it to do this, it might work. You know, it's all just doing it as much as possible. And, yeah, just not letting anyone tell you can't do it. And just do it. And, like, no one's going to hand it to you. So that's really the best advice I can say is
That's perfect.
Do
And
it.
and you know what? You definitely like lead by example in that way. You know, I see you. I mean, like we said, you put in all these shows. You're constantly putting out new music. You're putting in work, man. You know, like I said this morning, you were just playing at at Sunset, so down in
Yeah.
Belmar here. You're like, oh, I'll come do the interview too. And I'm just like, oh, I hope I'm not taking too much of your time.
No,
but
it's all
this
good.
is like a normal weekend for you, man. You were just
This is nice.
putting
Nice
in
drive
work.
down the shore early today. It was
Yeah.
good. Play a little bit and come hang out for a little bit. No, it's all good. It's part of it, and I love it. You know, and I'm trying to do more of it. So, but yeah, it all does come down. Just do it. Just go play, and that's I try to tell people. And people ask me, like, you know, how can I get gigs in Asbury Park and stuff like that? Just go play, go to shows, go meet musicians, go. You know, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're not doing it right. You know, stuff like that. Go hang out with people that are better than you. Go jam with people that are better than you. You know, and like I said, go when I was younger, hanging out with Willie Nile and those guys, and like being a guitar tech and, you know, opening act, and like just you got to be out doing things.
Yeah, you know what? I wasn't going to ask you this just because you seem so open-minded and really just interested just talking to you, man. Really inspiring, too.
Thank
Really
you.
good stuff.
I appreciate
I'll
it.
ask you this, man. You know, we had a podcast before we were talking about just with a lot of other bands like Egos and stuff like that, how it could be a good thing. You know, we were saying egos, not egos. But just real quick, man, you seem like very open-minded. You don't seem to have like a big over-the-top ego like a lot of bands do. You know, people think they play an instrument and they are, you know, Slash, you know? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
what do you think about like ego and having an ego and stuff like that?
I mean,
You don't seem that way
well,
to me.
no, I
Like,
tried. I tried. I mean, there's probably other people who would disagree with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's no, it's a balance, and I think, you know, to go back to Springsteen, but I think he did a talk, one of the South by Southwest a couple years ago. It's a really great speech. Like, he does this whole hour-long thing. I've never actually watched the whole speech, but there's a couple bits of it that are really good. And he has this one thing where he's like, you have to think you're the baddest ass ever, but you also have to think that you suck.
right, huh?
You know, and you
Yeah.
have to have ironclad confidence while also having doubt. You know, and it's a bit of duality. You know,
Wow.
and you have to, like, on stage, like in like some of the Prudential Center, like, I was feeling relatively confident. I'm like, this is what we do. Here's our thing. Like, we play these songs a million times. You know, we entertain people. You know, put us in front of a crowd, and I get excited and have fun. And then if I'm doing that, it seems people enjoy that. But at the same time, I've seen people when they think that they think, like you said, think they're Slash, think being a musician makes them better than people automatically.
right,
It's like,
right.
no, like, that's a farce. Because even the people who we think are not people, like the big mega stars, are just people.
Yeah. They're
And-
talking about dogs going into the yards.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
stuff, like you were
Everyone,
saying,
exactly.
yeah.
And it's like,
Regular people.
everyone has their shit, and everyone has stuff that they're dealing with, and it's like, yeah, we're all on the same level. So like, it's like, yeah, I don't understand really when musicians kind of get too big for their britches.
yeah.
It's like, and like people who like can't, like, won't talk to people after shows, or like won't talk to their fans and stuff like that. It's like, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, or what, you know.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to get snotty with them, you know, and stuff like that. But or even treating other musicians and poorly. Like, you were literally, everyone was in the lower tier position at some
Yeah.
point. You know what I mean? So that's why you got to give other bands, you know, chances to play. You got to, you know, help out other younger bands rather than being snotty or being, you know, too good. You know, or you know. But yeah, it definitely is a balance, and it's a difficult thing because having watched, you know, something like someone like Bon Jovi, for example, who's come from, you know, the nothing to great, you know, he's gone all the way up to the top. It's got to be really hard to stay humble when you have 20,000
sure,
people
yeah.
every day telling you how wonderful you are.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or like, you know, I could see how being sucked into that lifestyle for 40 years could totally, like, screw with that.
I
you
get
know?
you. Yeah, yeah.
So, like, even in that, like, people who I've met who haven't been as nice as they were, or, like, you know, other famous people where it's like, oh, what, you know, what's up their ass? It's like, you know, you could see how over time just the machine of being on the road and being in this kind of fucks with your compass.
yeah, yeah,
some
yeah.
degree.
I get that. Yeah.
Because when you're conditioned to think, oh, you know, I deserve everything my way, and when I don't get my way,
people cater to you.
yeah, and that's just, you know, it's bullshit. Because then you see, then there's always just on the climb. There's always the downfall. You know, there's always the decline, and the people you were a jerk to on the way up are gonna remember that when you're when you're the one who needs help and you're the one who's going down. You know, so you know, just be nice to people. And that's kind of a try to treat everyone nice until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Really good stuff, man. And really, I'm enjoying this interview
Good,
so
I'm
much.
glad.
A lot of
Me
times,
too,
a lot of people are very me-centric in the music world, and I feel like you're so open-minded and you're always looking at things from both sides of the equation. Like, even said the desk with the angle. Like, I can tell that's how your mind works, man. That's
Yeah.
good. That's very refreshing.
I
It's
appreciate
very
that.
refreshing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's like, but it is a bit of a mix because it's like at the same time though, it has to all sort of be. You have to think about yourself. You have to put yourself first because in some situations because you're going to be your biggest fan. You know, no one else is going to be the one who's going to, you know, champion you. You know, unless you are. That was another thing I learned early on. I was playing in college. I was playing a song. It was Another Deadbeat Summer, which became one of our regular studio
Mhm.
song, or one
Yep.
of our big live songs, and I was playing it when I had just written it for someone. And before I started, they were like, "Is this song better than Born to Run?" And I was like, "No, like fuck no. Why would it
What?
be?" And they're like, "Then why the fuck would I listen to it?" They're like, "You have to tell me this is the best thing ever."
Interesting.
And I was like, "That's a little much," but I was like, "I
Yeah.
understand what he's going for." You know,
He's
he's like,
trying to light a fire under
kind
you?
of, yeah. He's like, you know, he's like, if I'm, you know,
or just
if
being
you- if I-
rude. I don't know.
well, it was a little bit of both, but he was like, but it was just like, if you're not gonna be the one to tell me that I should listen to it and that it's great, why would anyone else?
Okay.
You know, so you know, I tried to be less depreciative in my humor when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's true. It's like if I'm sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, you know, this, yeah, we suck," yeah, you know, no one's gonna be like, oh, "Okay," people will be like, "Yeah, you know, I guess so," you know. But you have to find a fine line between being confident and trying to put yourself first, while also I think there are ways to do both and bring yourself up and bring other people up with you.
Yeah, you
And
you
there's
seem to be
ways-
on top of that.
I try, you know,
Yeah.
because I've been in the other side of it. I'm still on the other side of it. It's all about perspective, you know, a lot of
Mhm.
the stuff.
Yeah.
But,
No, really
you
good.
know, absolutely.
That's awesome. And real quick, you know, since we're talking about other people and stuff like that, man, any shouts you want to give real quick to the band, you know, plug the show, anything like that real quick
absolutely.
before we
Well,
listen to the last song? Go ahead.
The shout outs to, you know, my band, James, Andrew, and John. You know, they're great. And we got the Burns and Tula Vera, Mac, and Tommy London playing with us on Thursday. And it's going to be a blast. You know, I can't wait. I'm excited to see all the other bands. And we haven't played full band in about a month now. So I'm like crawling
you're
up the
itching,
walls. I'm
yeah.
itching. I'm ready to go.
I got you. Yeah, man, I
Yeah.
don't like sitting on the sidelines with my drumsticks. You know, everyone's
Yeah.
doing an
Mhm.
acoustic, man, you know.
Absolutely.
But that's awesome. But June 14th, House of Independence, be there. Going to kick off the summer with Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son, some other great bands. It's going to be awesome. Real quick, and Bobby, fantastic interview, man. This is great talking to you.
Thanks
you
for
know,
having me. I
It's,
appreciate it.
really, really good stuff, man. I got a lot of quotable stuff already. It's going to be great. Talk to me a little bit about Called It Quits, real quick. Now, I always say I'm terrible about you know, deciphering songs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Insert drummer joke here. I'm trying to think of the line that you had said. I wrote it down real quick. Sorry about bringing you down,
Yeah.
stuff like that. What
Yeah.
what is this song about? Or is it to someone? Or
Well, originally the song I had like the sort of the main riff of the song was like an acoustic track that I did a couple of years ago, which is also called "Call the Quits." But
Okay.
it was sort of like just me sort of lamenting about kind of just about being at a party I didn't want to be at. It was kind of
Okay.
it was the initial premise for it, and that's really kind of still where the verses are out of the song. But then yeah, like part of it's also like it's a bit of a breakup song. It's a bit breakup.
that's
but it-
kind of what
but
I
it's-
got.
Yeah, but it's breakup, but it's also it doesn't have to be necessarily like romantic relationships. It's kind of have to be like even
Okay.
friendships. It's just kind of like you get to a point where knowing someone or having a connection with someone isn't like it's either not healthy or it's not beneficial for either or one of you or both of you. So it's just like it's better just to cut the cord sometimes. That's kind of what it's about in a general sense. But it's also sort of about realizing that, but then also sort of seeing like the silver lining and the positivity of what's next in that too. So it's like Call the Quits, but it's like okay, that door is shutting, but the next thing's kind of just waiting to start, sort of.
And it's a great track. Obviously, you guys can find the video, follow Bobby Mahoney on YouTube. You guys got some good, like, kind of, live shot videos, like, with the track. It's really cool. They came
Thank
out
you.
great.
Yeah, no, this guy, Zach Morrison's been doing videos for us for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Looks
And
good.
He's awesome. Yeah, he's very talented. And, yeah, I love the way the new videos came out. It's
awesome.
I'm loving it.
And there's a bunch of them on YouTube. Guys, check them out. Obviously, on Facebook, social media. You guys know the drill by now. Bobby Mahoney and the Seventh Son. Bobby, absolute
Yeah,
pleasure
thank you for
talking
having
to
me.
you.
Let me know when you guys are doing another Star Wars panel. And
You're in?
I'll weigh
We
in,
will.
yeah.
Oh, man, dude. I could talk about Star Wars all day.
Yeah, thank you, though.
Oh,
I
man.
appreciate you having me. Thanks.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Mahoney. And, of course, let's take a listen to Called It Quits.
I called it quits on a night like this. It was so soft, well lit and done. Usually quiet, I took a step or two back from the wreck. Hard to believe there's anything left. Sorry about dragging you down. Hope the depths of hell spit you out. Sorry about dragging you down. Hope the depths of hell spit you out. Call the
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this episode of the Bob Culture Podcast. Don't forget to support the show on patreon.com/Bob Culture Podcast for some great incentives. I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons Jay Crow, Shannon Cruz, and of course Mike and Michelle Vermillion from Sledgepad Innovations. Sledgepad is the bass drum dampening system used by national acts like Pink, Goo Goo Dolls, Cher, Collective Soul, and a whole bunch more. Check them out at sledgepad.com. And of course, if you're a fan of the show, please subscribe on YouTube, check us out at podbean.com, and leave me a review at iTunes.